calling all you women who are go-getters, ladies who do all the things and seem to have it all together. Business leaders, mothers, volunteers, and household managers who get things done. You ladies give everything to everyone every day. You're 100% committed, you're loyal, and you're driven. But you're also exhausted, stressed out, overwhelmed, and just generally feel like crap. Let me introduce you to Self-Care for Female Leaders. This program specializes in helping you female leaders prioritize self-care without sacrifice. Your coach will help you streamline your schedule, get clear on your goals and priorities, and help you learn to fuel your body for the lifestyle you want to live. This program makes time for you easy to find. It eliminates stress, it increases your energy, and helps you finally feel like the badass you are. So if you're ready to ditch the stress and start feeling more like yourself again, click the link to schedule a discovery call today.
I'm excited to introduce our guest for this week's episode of the HomeBod podcast, Meg Bingham. When I first met Meg, I knew her as a marketing funnel strategist. I had talked to her about different advances and changes that I wanted to make in my business, but it wasn't until she came out with her podcast, the Burnout Cure for Boss Mommas, that I connected with Meg on that deep level that only women can when we're feeling the burnout. And we have this brilliant light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, she gets me. I listened to one of the very first episodes of your podcast, and it was literally, Meg, like this jaw dropping, oh my gosh, I didn't realize other people felt that way kind of moment.
I'm
And
so glad.
it obviously shows because your podcast has taken off. You were in the top 100 within the first 10 days of getting it out there. I don't
That's
remember all your
amazing.
statistics, but you are amazing. You have a different perspective than what most people
Yeah.
talk about. And I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Welcome, Meg.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. You are so kind. Thanks for that.
So obviously, marketing funnels and Burnout Cure for Boss Mamas, I can see how they could be related because you're dealing with busy moms and you're dealing in, the business end of things. But how did you take a step from one to the other? What was the transition on that?
Yeah, it's quite, I don't know. It's been just sort of an evolutionary process. I think the way we develop all of our things, we sort of grow into them. And I liked doing funnels. I like doing marketing, still do. It's what I do for a living and I love it. But as I work with these overachieving mom entrepreneurs, I saw a huge gap between we all want to raise our families, raise amazing humans, and then we're putting our all into our businesses and we leave nothing left for ourselves. And so as I work really, really closely with these women, I just saw this huge deficit in really our self-care and even how we perceive self-care. And so I started the Burnout Cure for Boss Mamas as a way to, for one, show solidarity, show that these six-figure mom entrepreneurs struggle with overwhelm. They struggle with burnout, just like those of us who are starting and putting in crazy hours. And I also invite entrepreneurs who serve other mom entrepreneurs to share their strategies that they're using to help prevent that burnout.
That is so awesome. That is, I'm telling you. So that's exactly why I created my newest program too, because I just was running into the same thing. And I think so many of us, we feel like we're in it alone. Like Ashley said, when you finally find out that you're not alone and that there's other women that you can lean on and you can say, hey, am I crazy? Or is this really hard?
Yeah, I think a big part of it too has been sort of removing that guilt, because I don't know. I talk about this a lot on the podcast, but we all have this mental image of a work-life balance, right? Where there's sort of like a tipping point. You're balanced on like a triangle in the middle, and there's work over here, and then there's everything else over here. But stuff is never going to be even. And even if you feel balanced for a hot second, something is going to tip. Your kid's going to need like help with a school project, or you're going to have a deadline pushed up on a work project. And so I like to think of it more as work-life integration. Like all of the things that we're doing need. Right, it's good. I learned that from one of my guests, actually. I have to go back and listen. It was so good. That was my light bulb moment during an interview. I was like, yes, that's what I'm calling it, and I love it.
I
But
love
everything that we're doing, everything that we're doing should work together to form the lifestyle that we want. So there's no balance, there's no tipping point. It's all about everything working together. Sometimes work is going to take up way more of your space and time, and sometimes family is. And as long as you are happy and healthy mentally and physically, doing all of those things and everything is integrated, that's how life should be. I like to kick out that whole idea of balance.
Well, and but I
Brilliant.
think your key point there is that you're making that choice. You're in charge of which thing is getting more priority, which thing is heavier, which thing is getting more of your attention. And you're
I
not,
think honestly, that for me, I was just thinking about that this week. This whole concept of balance versus, now I have a word to put with it, this integration, and the choice, choosing. So Meg, you said at the very beginning, this the concept of self-care. A lot of times I feel like when women talk about self-care, they're actually being selfish. And I don't like the concept of self-care the way most people depict self-care. But I think it comes down to these two things that we're talking about. It's this integration of what you want to hold the most weight, what's going to scream the loudest. Like we show what our priorities are by giving the time and attention to that thing, not by what comes out of our mouth, but by our actions. And if we choose something to be important, even if it's an act of selflessness, that can still be self-care because we're choosing it. Like I can still sit down and read stories with my kid and still consider it self-care because I choose that to be important. And I'm integrating that into this balance of life. And I love this whole concept and like finally finding closure to that statement, to find, that integration and to choose to take care of myself, but to choose my own priorities and what's the most important thing for me. This is brilliant. Okay, end of conversation. We're done.
we're done.
Got it.
Ashley has solved the problems of the whole world. No, I think
No, I love that. I love that.
I get frustrated because I think the word or term self-care gets misappropriated for a lot of different things. And to me, what it means is filling your cup. So self-care can mean meditation. Self-care can mean a kick-ass workout. Self-care can mean an amazing meal. Self-care can mean snuggling with your kids and reading books. Like, what is it that fills your cup? What is it that makes you feel good? And are you prioritizing that? Whatever that may be. And it can be many. Is it running your company? Maybe that fills your cup to close a 6-figure deal. That would fill my cup. My cup would be great.
Like, right? Bring it on.
Bring it on. That's fabulous. Let's do more of those, but to me, that's self-care because if I'm doing that and it's filling me up, that's allowing me to have the life that I want to have. Right. What do you find,
Yes, exactly.
Megan?
And that's one of the myths that I'm sort of trying to bust on my podcast. Oh, sorry. There's a lag.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So what do you find your listeners, what's like their number one thing that they're struggling with, that they're trying to reconcile?
I think that the number one problem that we think that we have, and this actually came up in our interview, Ashley, that we had about your Rethinking Clutter Facebook group. But I think the number one problem we all think we have is that we think we don't have enough time. And that's just not true. That's a myth I like to try and bust. And I think we all know that. I think we all know that we have enough time. We just haven't trained ourselves in how to assign that time to the things to priorities the way that we should, or the way that we need to feel fulfilled and happy. And so our brain thinks we don't have time. We actually do. It's just a matter of knowing how to control it and how to use it in a way that's going to benefit you the most.
Preach, girl. I've been
Brilliant.
saying that. That's my favorite thing. You got all the time in the world. You got as much time as you need. How
Well, and
you
it's
spend it.
interesting.
Yep.
So I'm in the middle of writing a book, and I was writing on time this morning. So you're just timely with everything this week, Meg. But I was thinking about when I first realized that I had this horrible relationship with time was in the kitchen. I always burned all the food because I would thaw the meat at the time that we should be sitting down at the table. And I had a coach say, what is your relationship with time with this? And I would always say, oh, like I never have time to be in the kitchen. I don't have time to spend 3 hours cooking a meal. I don't have time to spend half an hour unloading the dishwasher. I don't have time for this. And she just said, but does it really take you that long to do that? And I said, yes. And she said, no. You need to time yourself because this perception of time that you have is unhealthy. So, when I started timing myself unloading the dishwasher and I realized I could do this in less than 5 minutes, it was more like 3 minutes, that it would take me an hour to cook dinner, not 3. This whole perception of time shifted. And all of a sudden I didn't have the excuses that I thought I did. And I realized that I really needed to shift my whole language and my whole approach to things rather than saying, oh, I just don't have time.
If I had $1 for every time I heard that phrase from someone who was hoping and wishfully thinking to change their bodies or change their circumstances, but if only they had time. I mean, Ashley, we've talked about this on the podcast before about how the last half of 2020 showed us that time is not our issue, because you had all day, every day, and you didn't work out and you didn't lose weight and you didn't organize your closets. You watched Netflix and you ate food. Oh yeah. Time.
Yep. Definitely.
So what do you tell them?
I do like to point out though, like Netflix, I don't know. This is a thing that I've dealt with because I have come from a place of feeling like I don't have time to do all the things that I need to do. I only work on my business. I have little kids at home. And I just finished my degree, but I was going to school too and running a business. And so I did have to work on my mindset around time, but I also love Netflix. Like me and my husband are big movie buffs, and we make time for it, because if we don't get it, then I am not happy. Like that's a part of my self-care. I like to completely zone out into an awesome TV show or movie.
Amen.
And so when it comes to managing time, it's not saying you have to cut out things that are fun or cut out things that you like. And I think part of that shift for me was realizing that instead of saying I don't have time, I need to say that is not a priority for me right now. And that, like, just that little tweak in what I'm telling myself helped a bunch. And it's also helped me in setting boundaries with clients and with family members. If someone's asking me for something, I have a helper personality. And so I'm one that will say, yes, sure, of course, whatever you need, even if it's completely inconvenient for me or going to set me way back on my own stuff. And so that little shift between me thinking I don't have time for that. So when someone asks me to do something and I'm thinking I don't have time for that, I should say no. I shift it to that's not my priority right now. And I can sort of verbalize that easier than just I don't have time. Working on my boundaries. Like I should just be able to say no without an explanation, right? But to assuage my guilt that I assign myself, I can say to that person, I have this and this going on. I would love to help you, but I can't right now, kind of a thing, if that makes sense. So that tweak that I made in my own mind has helped me to get rid of some of the guilt I feel. Stop doing so many things for other people.
I 100% agree with that. And
Brilliant.
I don't necessarily think it's just to make yourself feel better. It lands better with people.
Yeah.
It lands better than just, no, not right now. Cause then they're like, why? but you're giving them
Jerk.
a why without giving them a why,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not a priority right now. Or I heard another one recently that I really liked, and it was something like, I would love to, but my schedule doesn't allow that at this time,
Yeah.
or my, whatever doesn't allow for that right now. And so you're still letting him down gently, but
Yeah.
drawing that line and acknowledging that you do have the time. It's not how you choose to spend it is everything. Absolutely everything.
And that in my business has been really powerful for me. My business is no longer client led. I'm no longer at the beck and call of what everyone else needs. It's me and my schedule, and I'm doing this work for you, but I set my own priorities. And so that shift as well has been huge and has really allowed me to grow my business beyond what it was even at the beginning of last year. So,
And you've hit the nail on the head when it comes to being able to offset some of the responsibility of organization. So whether we're talking about the sock bin in your kid's dresser, or the boundaries that we have to have within our business, when we have that boundary, that parameter, that hard no, and we can say, no, you cannot have any more socks than this because your bin is full. All of a sudden, the responsibility is not on you anymore. And you're not the bad mom. You can't let me have more socks. This was the structure that we set in place. And if you go beyond that boundary, it's going to break. And so the structure is what holds you in line. And those boundaries in your business are what holds you in line. And so to be able to say, I'm sorry, my schedule doesn't allow for that right now. It's not you saying, I'm sorry, I just can't take that on. Well, you're a bad person. This should be your priority because it's my priority. All of a sudden, that responsibility shifts from, well, you should be doing this, to, oh, okay, your schedule, right, whatever. And it takes that burden and that guilt. There's so much guilt involved with mom working for some reason still. That it shifts that guilt away from mom, away from us. And we have the strength to stick to our boundaries and our parameters a whole lot more easily, to be able to say, no, my schedule doesn't allow for this. So it's easier to be, to give those types of responses than it is to say, I can't do that right now.
yes,
So absolutely
love that.
take that and run with it. Just stick to your boundaries, stick to your parameters.
What are some other issues that you hear come up amongst your listeners or your followers?
Yeah, a lot of people are dealing with feeling overwhelmed with all of the things that we have to do. But again, I think that comes down to time and priorities. And then I've been interviewed quite a few parenting experts as well, because there is that mom guilt for some reason. Like Ashley just said, I don't know why we make ourselves feel guilty about working and having fulfilling careers and earning money for some reason. And we make ourselves feel guilty about that, which is another thing that I'm out to sort of bust that myth that you can do both things. You can be successful and have a career and make tons of money, and you can also be the most amazing present mom who does the class parties and whatever else motherhood looks like to you. It's totally possible. It's just a matter of setting up the structure for that to happen. Like you just mentioned, I love that way of phrasing it, having structure and boundaries. So
Yes, amen. You can do all the things. You just have to plan well.
yes.
Yep.
You
Yep.
just have to budget your time very wisely. Awesome. I love that. Yeah, the mom guilt thing, the struggle is real. I'm telling you. My daughter just asked me the other day why I don't coach her ski team, because that is my original passion, and I'm not to pat myself on the back, but I'm a dang good ski coach.
Yes, you are.
But I told her, I said, baby, because I don't like other people's kids that much. I said, I love you, but I don't want to ski with any other kids every single week. I'm sorry. And she's like, but I'm like, but I felt so like when she asked me that, I was like, ugh. Because she was like, Mom, I understand it so much better when you explain it. And I'm like, oh. And I actually for a second entertained it. I was like, okay, how can I fit one more? No, stay strong. Just say no. You can do it. But it's hard. It's hard because you want to give everything you you can. I heard a great analogy today on a different podcast, and it said, give from your saucer, not from your cup. And I
Oh,
thought,
I like that. I like that.
I know. And I was like, ooh. And I had to think about it for a second. I was like, how does it get on your saucer? And I was like, because your cup is overflowing. If your cup is overflowing, you're good. You can give what's left. But if you give from your cup, eventually there's nothing left for you.
Yep.
I loved that. So I was like, yep,
I
stepping
love
up.
that.
Use that again.
Yeah, it's a good visual. Love it.
Yeah. So tell us, Meg, what's happening in your world? You've got this awesome podcast. You've got this Facebook group. Um, where should we go? What should we do? What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, you can find the podcast on iTunes. It's the Burnout Cure for Boss Mommas. And then I also have a Facebook group by that same name. I'm actually switching things up for the new year where I'm going to have experts come into the Facebook group and then toss that up onto the podcast. So the trainings in the Facebook group are going to be really more actionable versus just a conversation on a podcast is my plan. So I have some awesome guests lined up for the next few months. So yeah, the Burnout Cure for Boss Mommas Facebook group. I also do marketing little trainings for mom entrepreneurs in there about once a week. Those are going to start up, and it's going to be an awesome community. It's sort of slowly growing, so I haven't put anything out there to really bring people in, but I'm excited to sort of create this community where we can all support each other.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Or commiserate together, whatever.
Exactly. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I love talking to other women who are running businesses and running households and doing all the things. And it's like, what's your secret? What's your magic thing that you're doing?
What are you doing?
They're like, well, I put my kids' socks in the same drawer as their pants so they can grab them at the same time. I don't know. I'm totally just guessing, Ashley. Don't freak out. But there's all these little tips. I mean, Ashley's tips of how to make a bunk bed, like, straight changed our world, and it's like, it seems like a small thing, but sometimes when you're battling a comforter on the floor every single day, it can make you want to lose your mind. And so I love that. So what kind of experts are you going to have?
Ooh, good question. So I have some more parenting experts lined up. I'm going to post Ashley's recent episode in the Facebook group because I think a lot of people struggle with their stuff in their homes. I know that I do. So that's going in there. I have an email marketing expert coming, a chatbot expert coming. I have a mindset expert coming in. I've got a lot of awesome people that I just love talking to, and they all have their own. So the structure of the interviews is we sort of talk about their journey and how they became entrepreneurs themselves, how they became experts. One of the most powerful interviews I've had was a parenting expert. She coaches moms on how to have better relationships with their own daughters. And so she sort of shared her story of growing up and her tension-filled relationship with her own mom. And then when she started to see her mom coming out in the way that she parented her own children and was not having that. And so how she made the changes she needed to, and now she teaches other parents how to do that as well. And so I think in those stories, we can learn so much about growth and growth mindset. So that's part of the interview. And then all of my experts have speak on a topic that supports us as moms and entrepreneurs and homemakers and all the things that we assign to ourselves or are given to handle.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, they all share their story and then give us something actionable that we can take to move forward.
That's what Heather and I love is the action steps. It's one thing to hear motivational, speeches, to hear, this expert and that expert, but if they don't give us those action steps and we don't take action, obviously nothing is going to change. And I love hearing the difference between all the experts, because Heather and I have kind of proven that everything that we talk about kind of overlaps with the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to hear different experts in different fields, but then to be able to hear the different overlaps and then to go, oh, okay, so I'm not going to take anybody at necessarily face value. I'm not discounting any expert, but to be able to say, what works for one might not work for another. And so to be able to integrate it into my framework and my way of thinking and my ability to look at a situation and assess, what's good for me. I love those types of conversations and to be able to balance it out. I mean, for me, it's like, I don't want Pinterest. I don't want somebody to come in and say, this is how you solve the problem, because guaranteed there will be something that does not work for me. And so to have a whole bunch of different perspectives and to talk to a whole bunch of different people to be able to say, oh, okay, well, that's good advice and that's good advice and that's good advice. If I combine all of those, then that's going to be a good solution for me. So, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love your podcast is, first of all, it's short.
Yes.
So for us busy moms, like we don't have time to sit down and listen to a 2-hour podcast. Just ain't going to happen. But I can sit down and listen to 20 minutes to half an hour.
I think 20 minutes is max.
Exactly. If we can say, hey, here's brilliant ideas and here's an action step in 20 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
I mean, there are some podcasts that I listen to that are over an hour, but it takes me days.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to break those up. For
sure. And they're really like clinical, like they're super heavy on the, like their nutrition or their, body type stuff. So it's like all kinds of medical terms and it like takes some serious thinking, but I think that there's definitely time and a place, but most of the time, 20 minutes, I can do that, especially because I don't know about you guys, but I'm all about the 1.5 or 2 times speed. Like
Yep.
Yep. So if it's a 20-minute podcast done in 10, even better.
And Megan, one of the other things I super appreciate about you is that you can tell that you walk the walk, that you found something that you can talk into a microphone about, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense on the other end. So the fact that you can talk about these things and then you practice them, and we see you with your littles and we see you as a boss mama, and coming to the same epiphanies and realizations and understandings that every boss mama has to. I think that's what makes you valid. Honestly, it's what adds value to what you're saying, is because you don't present yourself as perfect, but here's some information that I'm interested in. I found a weakness, a glitch in the system. This is what I think is going to make it better. So I really appreciate the input that you bring and that you're walking the walk.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that's completely how I feel. I think anyone out there who, even the experts that I bring in, I think anyone who pretends that they've totally got it like 100% all the time is not being truthful. And so I think that comes to the point of me wanting to create a community where we can all feel solidarity. Like, yeah, she's making multiple 6 figures, but also she still leaves her laundry on her bed for 3 days, and we're working to make that not happen anymore, kind of a thing. So yeah, thanks for that, Ashley. That's really what I've been trying to create. So thank you.
Yay. Awesome.
Excellent. So again, we'll post the links for the Burnout Cure for Boss Mommas, both the podcast and the Facebook group. I'm already part of that community and so happy to be there. We'll make sure that our listeners get connected with what you have to offer. And there again, like, we are not afraid to drop people off on your podcast either, because there are so many ins and outs to having a happy home, head, and health. Things overlap so much that it's definitely worth getting everybody's perspective on it.
Yes.
So, thanks so much for being here, Meg. We do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys are great.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, wait, one last thing.
Oh, yeah.
We always so this part of it at the end always gets edited out. But what we do is we take something that you say at the very end and actually plug it into the very beginning. So what would you say? Like, we always offer some kind of happy hack. Doesn't have to be anything long, but something that, like, we talked about action steps. So something actionable that they can do right now to make them, to reduce the burnout cure or whatever it is that you want. What is some little happy hack that you can offer our listeners that is important to you right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. So we kind of touched on this, but self-care for people is overused. I think it's used sometimes in the wrong way. It's not a bubble bath. It's not a bar of chocolate. I mean, that can be part of it if that's something that makes you happy. But I think something that is important is for each of us to realize what we need to be mentally healthy and happy. And if it is a chocolate bar, great. If it's an hour of quiet time, which is what I need, then great. I need to make sure I have an hour of alone quiet time every day to feel like I am functioning to the best of my ability. So self-care isn't the same thing for everybody, and you need to figure out what it is for you.
Love it.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Absolutely perfect. Thanks, Meg. We do appreciate it. Really.
You guys are awesome.
All right. See ya.